Hello everyone, Kirby1 here, and welcome back to Dominions 5. This time I swear, and I want to start by prefacing for this one that this is not going to have any Dominion 6 content at all. So just FYI, I don't have the copy of the beta release or anything like that. So this is going to be all just a speculative video on my part based on things that I know, things that I've been following and listening to, things that I'm excited for. And also, I'm not really going to be aiming this particular video for any sort of new player content. This is going to be predominantly focused on things that I have had experience with playing Dominions 5 for as long as I have, and will be more familiar for people who have that similar sort of experience of having played Dominions 5 for quite a while and knowing the terminology that I'm talking about. So if that is not going to be your particular slice of cake, then feel free to skip out until next week. But otherwise, welcome, and let's dive in. I think that what I wanted to do is take this sort of opportunity to diversify a little bit from the other kind of content that's coming out right now. Obviously, there's going to be stuff being made by the people who have access to Dominion 6, and I highly recommend that you go check that out. It'll be varying levels of quality, varying amounts of time that you'll be spending watching some of these, and yesterday I did basically break down and watch almost all of them pretty straight through, and got a lot of new information, things that I hadn't heard about, things that I got to see that I hadn't seen before. So definitely go check out people like Lucid's videos, check out Das Tactic. He's made a bunch of videos, and I think that both of them will continue making more, and Battle Mode as well has a channel that he's been putting videos up for. So those are all great places to find a lot of new stuff. So the way that I want to separate myself from the pack is because I don't have access to the game and I don't know exactly what's in the game or how things are going to play out with that. I just wanted to hype it up a little bit and get excited for the things that I want to check out and the things that I'm looking forward to first and foremost, what I'll have access to when the game launches, and the kinds of things that I will be trying out my hand at first. So let's just pop in here and go into Pretender Creation. We'll start with each of these ages and just sort of go with the nations that I'm most interested in trying out for the various reasons. By the way, one thing just sort of UI related that I noticed when I was watching some people's plays is that, yesterday I meant, is that when you are in Dominion 6 and you're in this nation selection screen, you can apparently right-click on these nations and it'll bring up the screen like it does here. Whereas for Dominions 5, what I have to do to go back is click the escape key. It's just like one tiny thing that I think is really, really cool. Just all sorts of random things like that, where it just makes navigating the game easier. It allows you to just sort of be a lot quicker with going from one place to the next, having a lot more control over that kind of stuff. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Just all the tiny little things like that. I was really excited watching the videos about the kind of stuff that they had there. So from the early age, I'm going to leave out the new nations that are going to be in the game in Dominion 6 because while I am excited for a bunch of them more than others, I don't know what to expect from them, and I will be learning them from scratch along with everybody else. So I'm going to focus just on the nations in Dominions 5 and how they're going to translate over to Dominion 6 and what I want to try out and what I want to do from there. I think it should come as no surprise to any longtime viewers of my channel that probably Ubar is going to be one of my first and foremost favorites. I'm going to be really seeing how this nation has changed and what its effects are going to be on the Dominion 6 meta and how people are going to react to it, how strong it is, and things like that. In Dominions 5, Ubar can be strong, but also can be very, very easily countered. When you look at Jin type units, and I go over this in my sort of national overview, they have very powerful abilities from ethereal, glamour, invisibility, or I should say unseen, magic power, and then a variety of powerful stats, but they have Salt Vulnerability, which is a very specific hard counter to them, and a lot of these abilities are also negated by very specific tags like Magic Weapons and Spirit Sight. So if you have Salt, Magic, Weapons, and Spirit Sight, then these guys are literally just militia stats. And if you're fighting in Drain, it's even worse. So very hard countered. If you see an Ubar in the game, then you basically know how to deal with them. But if you aren't in a position to deal with them and they scale out of control, then once they get people like Shaitans, then it's miserable fighting them because of corruption and scale walls and being able to fly back with their targets. It's pure misery. And I love it personally, not the inflicting misery on people, but just because it is really fun nation to play with super overpowered units. And then for me personally, I enjoy the challenge of trying to figure out how to survive against someone who has hard countered you and sort of seeing like what I can do to get around those powerful debuffs that you can suffer. They do have a lot of other fun stuff as well. Ghouls are very interesting because of their 50% regen, and they have two forms. Camel Riders are really going to have an interesting different use because of how camels are going to be separated as mounts from their riders, and they have the falcon as well that they always spawn, and these are foreign recruits, so you can potentially get a lot of these guys, so that will be interesting to play with. And then of course Glamour Magic has apparently made an appearance and will be affecting Ubar. I'm not sure what to expect. I'm not sure if the Glamour is going to replace air or if it's going to replace something else, perhaps earth. I don't see it replacing fire, and the smokeless flame bit kind of requires them to have at least some air. It's entirely possible that they just have glamour on top of everything else that they get. One of the interesting things about following the updates is that Ubar has not really gotten a lot of specific looking into, so people haven't really gone into detail about what the changes are. Like nobody's pulled up their nation overview screen, excuse me, and so I haven't been able to see how exactly it all plays out. And I've always wanted Sultans to work, to be honest. Like I give them a lot of crap, but they are bad and they are really, really easily counterable. What's going to be really funny is to see how high their gold cost is going to be increased. They could potentially be up to like 700, 800 gold now at this point. And it's just going to be extremely oppressive to see how expensive these guys are going to be. But I would probably stick with just an all scales build. I'm not really geared toward playing Ubar with any sort of bless. Although you're only going to be able to get up to 2 now in any given direction. So I don't know. And then we'll have to see how the pretenders play out. I'll be aiming most definitely for like a plus magic pretender. Let's see. If I had to guess, maybe the Nidorette will be plus magic. Yeah, I'm not sure. So yeah, all sorts of interesting things like that. Probably low dominion, very low paths. Yeah, I don't know what to expect. And again, because you're taking dormant, you won't be able to awake expand with them. So that's one idea. Another fun thing for me personally that I'm going to want to try out is Kailasa. Kailasa is getting even more crap than Ubar is of all things, because they sound like they're going to be extremely difficult to expand with and extremely weak against indies and masses of troops. And that's because their troops, their recruitable sacreds, have no protection. Now that can be worked around with blesses. And what I did, so the reason I'm excited for Kailasa is, again, a very, very long history with this. My first YouTube videos were of Kailasa. I had 2 games that I put up of Kailasa where I didn't win. I mean, the first one I actually got pretty close. I came in second and had a big fun fight with the winner of that game, Brutal, and that's the player's name, Brutal, who played Hinam, and I learned a lot of things. But what I took for them was an awake monolith, and this was so many patches ago that the blesses don't even work anymore like they did. I think this was back when magic weapons was like at M2, and yeah, so a lot has changed since then. So I took like a fortitude regen bless, and if you do that now, you really have to tank your scales. Actually, not even by that much, but yeah, because your troops don't cost any resources, you can dump sloth, but you can't go down that far anymore. On top of that, in the videos that we saw yesterday, the monolith has gone up in design points to, I believe, 210. So there's going to be, and on top of that, the bless effects are just redistributed in terms of how you buy bless effects. It's going to be really hard to pin down how to pull off a bless like this successfully for expansion. The other thing that I am interested, though, in trying out are some of the, well, probably a Devi of Darkness would be really interesting to play around with, but also some of the new pretender designs, like they have the tiger riding Druga Devi, which will be really fun. And then what else? Well, they have the 3-headed, four-armed Titan, which I don't remember off the top of my head what its paths are or anything like that. But the sprite for that you can see from Conquest of Elysium 5. They have the Asura, which is a pretender option. Yeah, I think it's going to be really, really fun to try and make it work. But I do think that it will be hard. I'm going to be completely honest and say, yes, it's going to be hard. I don't know what to expect, but I'm excited to try it and see what will work. So I think that'll probably be mostly it for the early age. There are other things that I'll want to play later, but for the first 2, for early age games, if I get into some, that will be what I'll be aiming to try. And then for the middle age, the ones that I'm most excited for are Asphodel and Phaeacia. Phaeacia I also did a national overview for. These guys I consider to be almost like one of the exclusive good guy nations of the entire Dominion's lore. They don't go around sacrificing virgins. They don't have a lot of death magic and reincarnating skeletons and things like that. They're just straight up elementalism. They have a progressive queendom for their monarchy and things like that. They are all about just straight up honorable combat and burning people alive with fire magic and shocking people with air magic. Plus, I actually just legit like their their troop lineup. Their Colossal Light Infantry and Heavy Infantry are a lot of fun. I've even started branching out and giving the regular Phaeacian human troops a try. Colossi Weavers, just amazing in every regard. We'll have to see how expensive they've gotten and then sort of compare it to other nations and what that's going to look like. The magic paths and the related spells that you're going to be able to cast is going to be very interesting to see what that difference is going to be like. And there are a bunch of nerfs to air magic, specifically in regard to air elementals, that are going to make sort of the one-trick pony idea, just summon as many air elementals as you can, not as viable. Thugging is often talked about as being nerfed, which I would often do with storm captains because of cloud trapezing and then being able to buff themselves with Mistform, Liquid Body, and things like that, and then giving them very cheap gear to boost their defense skill. I think that might still be semi-viable, and it will be interesting to see what kind of items can be forged to continue along that path. One of the interesting things I think will be that Phaeacia is not going to have, I don't think, a lot of changes to its magic path access. Now, obviously, because of the spell changes, because of things being taken away from air and moved into glamour, and taken away from nature and moved into glamour, etc., and taken away from astral and moved into glamour. The fact that you don't have glamour on your nation means you're going to miss out on some of the things that you did have in 5. Things like luck, things like phantasms, and stuff like that. And so that will be different to play around with. Other than that, they will basically be pretty much the same, and I think that'll be a bit of a comfort to try and get into just sort of something that feels familiar and then try just basic expansion with them and see how it goes. I will really, really, really want to see if I can try at least one island start game with Phaeacia. The fact that they have such massive amount of income in their capital will be very interesting to see how preposterously high you can get your income on turn 1 and how many troops you can recruit. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And some of the changes to the way underwater combat works may make it more interesting and viable. I think the Telkine might be back on the table just because their Foul Vapor's effect from being in combat sounds like it still exists. So if you take an Awake Telkine as Phaeacia, you might still be able to surprise somebody with that didn't expect you to have that ability to be able to do that. So that could be really, really funny, and we'll see if it works out like that. They can probably buff themselves pretty well with things like Stone Skin or Bark Skin or Iron Skin, things like that. Mistform and Cloud Trapeze, all sorts of fun stuff. So that's one option. Asphodel is another one, and I think I've said it before many times, but Asphodel is considered to be, in this game, Dominions 5, to be one of the worst nations just because of the pop kill mechanic not synergizing super well with the theme of their nation. But I've always loved the theme of just sort of like undead mannequins. They appeal to me in a weird, funny little way more than just regular long dead skeletons or soulless. And there are a lot of cool specific types of mannequins that you can get. Things like mannequin minotaurs, carrion beasts of various kinds, including bears and elephants. And I think that there are going to be a lot of interesting ways that you can play this in Dominion 6 because of a lot of different changes. So it looks like, so there was one showcase of about 20 minutes by Battle Mode in his video where he pulled up a game and tested out just how many summonable mannequins you can get from just throwing something together. And one of the very, very important things about Asphodel, and you see it again in their description right here, is that growth scales increase reanimation rate. Magic scales increases the chance of better reanimations. And he didn't take magic in his build. So one of the things I'll be looking out for is a magic pretender. And I think that from what I saw, Idol of Sorcery has magic on it. It also seems to have switched its paths, or added to its paths, Glamour, and I think dropped Astral down to 1. So they have 1 Astral, Death, and then 1 Glamour. That could be really interesting to see how that works out. One of the things that surprised me because of the theme of the nation is that Asphodel doesn't seem to have gotten any Glamour on any of its mages, whereas Pangea has. And the reason that's surprising is because the theme specifically of Asphodel is that you are dying by falling asleep and having the vines sort of kill you and take over your body. And that is the Glamour thing. The dreamlands and sleep spells and all that kind of stuff. So it's very surprising to me that they didn't opt into dropping any nature from pans or from hags and replacing it with 1 Glamour, or adding any randoms. From the showcase that we saw from Battle Mode, it looks like the paths are all the same. And that, again, there's like a week left, less than a week left, so I won't say that changes are impossible. It's unlikely, but it does seem surprising to me in that way. And you can see it in the mannequins themselves, that they have a sleep vine attack. Like, all the mannequins have sleep vine attacks, not just regular like fatigue, items. It's specifically described as sleeping vines. So I don't know what to sort of make of that. But so what I'm getting back to is that what I'll try and do is have high growth, as high magic as I can get, and then probably tank Sloth, Misfortune, and I'll try and leave Temperature where it is, because Asphodel doesn't really do well in either. They're not the same as just regular Long Dead in that their mannequins don't have cold resistance. So it's not actually super great to go cold, because they don't have snow move, and then they also do fatigue out more from colder temperatures. And then there's not really any benefit whatsoever to fire, to heat scales, because you run into a Fire Nation and they'll just spam you with all sorts of fire elementals and stuff like that. So not super great. And then I might try and get some order to double the counteraction of Misfortune, and then also let me think. Yeah, get help with the Black Centaur recruitment. And as for a Bless, one thing I'm really interested in trying out because of how it will work on Twiceborn Panic Apostates, or the Carrion Lords that you can summon, and also on Sagittarian Carcasses, depending on how many of those you can get, which are the sacred centaurs with vine bows. I will want to try out the Vampiric Weapons Bless, which I think is something like 4 and 8 blood. So it might actually be better to go with like a Fountain of Blood if they also have magic increase, because I think magic increase will be more important than trying to get the Bless. And then maybe take it just like Dormant or Imprisoned or something like that. I'm not sure yet where to go, because you can get a lot of points out of that. Tank this up a bit, and then just go wild with some kind of expansion Bless, like let's pretend this is Glamour with like Blur or something like that. Some sort of non-incarnate expansion Bless for Black Centaurs. Anyways, thoughts. It's just thoughts. So I'm really excited for Asphodel. There's a lot of ways you can take it, I think, and we'll see how that goes. And we'll do lastly, excuse me, late age. Late age is the age that I am really least familiar with. I have played very few of them. There was not really a lot that compelled me about the late age and the nations in it and the nations that you fight in it, that I just sort of never got into it. I think that what I would want to try is my own hand at Vaedeheim. I subbed into a game as Vaedeheim that was being played by a very, very well played by a very skilled player, and I am excited to sort of try and replicate some of those ideas that I learned from picking up after him and going off of that. There was a lot of fun things that he did that I think I could have a shot at. And we'll see how it plays out, because they're going to have a lot of changes. Gigias are going to have glamour. Hags and Vaedi Gigias are also going to have glamour, I think. So the one downside to Vaedi is that the Wolf Riders, I think, are going to completely suck. They were fun to play around with in 5 because they were really fast, stealthy, and they could do attack rear things and things like that, and they have 2 attacks and stuff like that. But the problem with playing them in 6 is because of the mount system, the mounts are the wolves, and they're literally just like regular wolves that you summon from like Howl or Summon Wolves or things like that, which is really bad, like really, really, really bad. And I don't think that is going to translate well, because as soon as the wolf dies, then your entire unit has to go back home to get a new wolf. So we'll see about that. These guys are probably completely dead for the time being, unless Illwinter decides to rework that in some way. Moose Riders might be highly amusing, but I don't know yet, so we'll have to see. Aside from that, Satis has gotten a massive, massive rework. There's going to be a lot of new units to their roster, and some of the old units have been reworked a little bit. The Keeper of Tomes is now going to be Reanimator Priest, Holy 2, I think. Yeah, so they're going to be a Holy 2 Reanimator Priest, and that is going to be very, very interesting for kickstarting the nation's national summons and things like that. National unique summons that they get for reanimation specifically. Other things that they're going to get, they're apparently getting crossbows, they're getting halberds, they're getting more sacreds, and apparently one of the sacreds that they're getting is a Banefire crossbowman. I am going to massively withhold judgment on the Banefire crossbow because it sounds like complete garbage, but I will have to just see and test it out. I got really excited for it when they announced it, but it doesn't sound like it will work in a way that I was hoping it would, and so it's probably just going to be scale Satis, just like every other Satis. And then lastly, I think I'm really excited for trying out Patala, which again, Monkey Nation themed. For whatever reason, Patala and Kailasa are more interesting to me than Bandarlog in the Middle Age, but I think it's just because of their unique units. I really think that Naga are really cool. Now, I know that there are a lot of weaknesses to them. They're low protection in the age of crossbows, and they're very, very slow combat speed. But there will be ways, I think, to work around it. I will probably try not to focus on using them in expansion because you have good scales troops, but some kind of sort of stat boosting bless or things like that will probably be really good for them, as well as the kind of thuggable units that you can have. And apparently they got a lot of glamour on their mages and things like that. So they can have some really, really strong mages, like wide and high paths. could be very interesting to see. Plus, for Potala specifically, they have war elephants, and so that can also help with expansion as well. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. I am excited to try them out and try a couple of things. Their pretenders are going to be pretty similar and going to have a lot of interesting options. One of the other things that you could try is this Bodhisattva. They're apparently getting, I think, Glamour to replace something. I'm not sure if it's going to be Astral Glamour or Air Glamour. I think it will be Astral Glamour. But this disbelief ability is going to probably be a lot more powerful in the Age of Glamour in Dominion 6. And yeah, so this could be a good way to get high glamour and things like that. And I don't know what else. I don't know what else to expect out of these guys, but it's an exciting time. So those are the kind of nations that I'm looking forward to trying out. If you have any suggestions for the Blitz stream that's going to happen next Saturday, for which nation you would like me to try, or which you're most excited to see me try out of the ones that I've described, it's apparently going to be an all ages game, so I can do any of them. So let me know down in the comments if there's any preferences or thoughts on that, and we'll probably be trying to make one or two videos this coming week when the game comes out to try my hand at sort of looking at things, looking at what's new, just skimming around the game, navigating the panels like this. I'll look over the manual offline, but yeah, just going through creating a game, creating some pretenders, trying out the new bless system and the scale system, going over how the UI looks and things like that, and looking at the new spells, new items, and then maybe trying one game of expansion against Indies and seeing how miserably I fail at that, and all sorts of fun things like that. So stay tuned for some of that kind of stuff, and until then, have a good week.